and welcome back. My name is Stephen Gauci, and in this video we're going to discuss the basic blues form. So, as you all probably know, jazz comes out of the blues tradition, and like in any tradition, jazz players have their own perspective on how to approach the blues and how to deal with that form. So, just to differentiate between this is my approach as a jazz player to playing the blues, and if you were to ask someone who came out of the blues tradition as distinguished from the jazz tradition, they may have a different take on this, although there'll be significant overlap. Okay, so anyway, in jazz, when we talk about the blues, we're mainly talking about the 12-bar blues form. Okay, so there are different types of blues forms. There's 8-bar blues, 16-bar blues. There's basically free blues. I mean, blues can mean many different things, and there's many different ways to approach it. But within the jazz tradition, we're focused mainly on the 12-bar form. Okay, so in the most basic, what's the term? In the most basic sense, the 12-bar blues is 4 measures of the 1 chord. Okay, so if we're dealing in the key of C for tenor saxophone, that would be concert B flat. But for tenor saxophone, we're in the key of C now, and that would be C7 for 4 measures. Okay, so that would be the 1 chord for the first 4 measures, and then the next 2 measures, the 5th and 6th measures, would be the 4 chord, and that would be an F7. And then the 7th and 8th measures, it goes back to 1. That would be C7 in the 7th and 8th measures. And then in the 9th measure, it goes up to the 5 chord, which would be a G7. In the 10th measure, it would go to the 4 chord, which is the F7 chord again. And then in the 11th and 12th measures, we're back to the 1 chord, the C7. Yeah, so let me just illustrate how that would work in terms of the chords. So now I'm basically just going to run the chords, okay? And I just want to add one thing before I go on. There are downloadable PDFs with all these forms. I've illustrated it all, and you can find that at my website, skypelessons.gauchimusic.com, and there's a link to that at the end of this video, and it will take you right to the page where you can download the PDFs that go along with this video. Okay, so so here's how we're going to go. I'm just going to run the chords in each measure for now. This way you can get a sense of it. And I'm sure you're all familiar with it because it's a very basic blues we hear all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was me running the chords in each measure. Okay, so I wasn't improvising or anything like that. I'm just demonstrating what the chords sound like. So the 1 chord is a C7. Here's C7. We have the root, low C, and then we have the 3rd is E natural, and then we have the 5th is G. And then the 7th is a B flat, the flat 7, the dominant 7. The 4 chord is an F7. Okay, so we have an F for the root, and then we have an A for the third, and then C is the 5th, and E flat is the flat 7, the dominant 7. Okay, and then the 5th, the 5 chord is a G7. Okay, and we have G for the root, and then B natural for the third, D natural for the 5th, and F natural for the flat 7 or the dominant 7. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to improvise a little bit and give you an example of what it sounds like when we play in this very basic blues form. Okay, and here we go. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there you go. That was an improvisation on the basic, on that basic blues form. The 1 chord for the first 4 measures, the 4 chord for the next 2 measures, measures 5 and 6. Back to the 1 chord on measure 7 and 8, and then the 5 chord is the 9th measure. The 4 chord is the 10th measure, and then the 11th and 12th measures we're back on the 1 chord. Now, and when the form is structured this way, harmonically, there's not much going to. We're always pretty much there. You know, we have the 1 chord for 4 measures. That's it. Just for this vast expanse of 4 measures, we have 1 chord, and it is the 1 chord. And the way 1 chord functions is to make a statement. That's essentially what a 1 chord does, because the 1 chord is home. It's not going anywhere. There's not a feeling of needing to leave where we are. Okay, but what the 1 chord wants to do is it wants to make a statement. The 1 chord doesn't make a statement, so that's why I did this in my improvisation. Okay, so that's a statement. Ba ba da 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 da, ba da da da, right? And then I make the exact same statement again. Okay, so that's a very clear statement. It's not we're not going somewhere in the sense where you know we're moving in this kind of fashion. We're not doing it. Okay, even though I was playing all the right notes and it sounds fine, that's not really what the form. That's not really what's supposed to happen in that part of the form. Okay, and the way we make the form, the only way the form exists is if we carry out the function of that part of the form. If we allow the chord to carry out its function. So the 1 chord, the function of the 1 chord is to make a statement. So okay, there, and now the next measure. Okay, we got that right there. Okay, there's 2 statements. Ba ba da 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 da, and then it repeats the statement again. Ba ba da 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 da, ba da da da. Now, the next measure is the 4 chord. Essentially, the 4 chord, it functions the same way the 1 chord functions. The 4 chord, it's not really going anywhere. Okay, it's essentially the one chord upper fourth. That's what it is in this context. Okay, so the function is still the same. The 4 chord's going to make a statement just like the 1 chord, and it doesn't really feel much of a need to go anywhere or do anything else. So I just take the same statement and I play it upper fourth. Okay, so there's the same statement, but it's upper fourth. That's what the 4 chord does. It makes a statement. Okay, and when we hear this, we know exactly what the form is. It sounds like that blues form. It's entirely recognizable. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time from the beginning, and we're going to go up to that point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now that brings us up to 5, 6. Now we're in the 7th measure, okay? So we have the first 4 measures of C7, the 1 chord. Then we had the 5th measure and the 6th measure, the 4 chord, F7. And now the 7th and the 8th measure, we're back to the 1 chord. So we're back to the another statement, okay? And it's going to be the same statement. You know, we don't need to come up with a different idea each time. The statements reinforce themselves. Okay, every time we hear a phrase repeated, we believe it a little bit more. Okay, if only because the person telling it to us believes it himself, you know, or he believes it enough to keep repeating it to you. And it's the same in music. Okay, it's all about communication, and that implies belief in a way. So when we repeat statements, we believe in it. Okay, and the people are going to hear it. So yeah. So there's no need to switch anything. If I were to switch off and do another statement, you know, it might be okay. But, you know, there's also a sense of, well, you know, I didn't really believe what I was saying that much, so I just went on to something else. You know, think of it in terms of when you're having a conversation with someone, you know. If the person's not focused on what they're telling you enough to stay with it, well, you know, you're not going to stay with it either. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example now. Let's continue. Okay, so the next measure now we have the 5 chord. Okay, so now we're going to deal with the 9th measure, the 10th measure, and then the 11th and the 12th measure. Okay, so in the 9th measure and the 10th measure we have the 5 chord for 1 measure, and then we have the 4 chord for 1 measure. Okay, and this is the one part of this basic blues, 12-bar blues form, where there's actually some forward motion, where it's about movement. It's about going forward. So when we're on the 5 chord, the function of the 5 chord is to go to 1. That's what 5 does. So the G7 wants to go to 1, which is C7. Okay, that's what it really wants to do. However, the G7 or the 5 chord is in the 9th measure, you know, and the 1 chord is over here in the 11th measure. We have the 4 chord in between. Okay, so it creates this kind of it's a tension. That's what it is. It's a tension, and it's creating a forward motion. And it's a stepwise forward motion. In this case, you have the 5 chord, the G, and then just underneath it in the next measure, like a step down, you have the F7 chord, the 4 chord. Okay, and then it goes to the 1 chord. Okay, so what I play is a little bit different, and I treat these two measures differently, because now it's not so much about a statement, although we can put a statement in there, but it's more about this step down going into the one chord, okay? And here we go. So I'm going to play that part, and let me see. So let me see. Right from the 5 chord, I'm going to go. Okay. So I went on the G7 chord, the 5 chord. I went, and that's essentially 3, 5, 3, 1. That's all it is. It's like I outlined the triad, okay? But it has this movement thing, because he's da 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 da, right? So it's kind of, it's moving and then it's going down. It's stepping down into the 1. Exact same thing on the 4 chord. I go 3, 5, 3, 1. Okay, but it's a step down from the 5 chord. So on the 5 chord, which is the 9th measure, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and in the 11th measure, we resolve into the 1 chord, which is the C7, and the first note we hit is the 3rd. It's the E natural, and then we go to a B flat, the dominant 7. Okay. Okay. So from the very beginning of the blues, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's about it for that form, okay, and come back for the next video, because in the next video we're gonna stay with the blues, and we're just gonna go through all the permutations where the form gets a little bit more complex each time. Okay, so thanks for coming and have a great day. Thanks, bye-bye.